The DC universe has never fallen short on delivering some incredible alternate dimensions, and they usually have some sinister twist that makes things more interesting. In this video, we're diving deep into one of DC's most disturbing alternate realities, Earth X, a dimension that recently made headlines in Peacemaker Season 2. Right now, Peacemaker and the 11th Street Kids are stranded on a parallel Earth, where the Nazis won, and this is none other than Earth X. The show finally confirmed that twist in Season 2, Episode 6, using chilling visual cues, from the flag to the mobs, and creator commentary to make it crystal clear. And trust me, what you're about to learn will absolutely blow your mind. So grab your snacks, hit that notification bell, and let's explore this nightmare dimension together. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The origins of Earth X. Alright, so before we get into the Peacemaker twist, let me take you back to where it all began. Earth X first appeared way back in Justice League of America number 107 in October 1973. The creators Len Wein and Dick Dillon wanted to explore one of humanity's darkest what-if scenarios. What would happen if Nazi Germany had won World War II? Now, you might be wondering how exactly the Nazis managed to win in this reality. Well, here's where it gets really dark. In Earth X, President Franklin D. Roosevelt died of a heart attack in 1944. Which created massive political shifts in the United States. This delay caused major problems with research and development, especially with the atomic bomb project. Meanwhile, Nazi Germany was also developing their own atomic weapons. Here's the kicker. Neither side wanted to use their nukes because they feared mutually assured destruction. So World War II just kept dragging on, with millions more people dying in the process. But then the Nazis achieved something truly terrifying. They successfully created a mind control ray. This technology allowed them to turn the tide of war completely, ultimately leading to Germany conquering not just Europe, but the entire world, including America by 1973. The Resistance, Uncle Sam and the Freedom Fighters. But here's the thing about humanity, we never give up without a fight. Even in this nightmare world, there were still heroes willing to stand up against tyranny. Enter Uncle Sam and the Freedom Fighters. Uncle Sam in the DC universe isn't just some guy in a patriotic costume. He's literally the embodiment of the American spirit. Created by Will Eisner back in 1940, Uncle Sam represents the idea that as long as America's ideal survives, so will he. On Earth X, he leads a ragtag group of superheroes called the Freedom Fighters, which includes characters like Dollman, Phantom Lady, Human Bomb, Black Condor, and the Ray. These heroes are basically the last line of defense against Nazi oppression. They're immune to the mind control technology that the Nazis used to keep everyone else in line. Think of them as the DC equivalent to the French Resistance, but with superpowers. They're constantly fighting an uphill battle, trying to liberate concentration camps, rescue prisoners, and basically keep hope alive in a world gone mad. The New Reichsmen, Nazi version of our favorite heroes. Now, here's where things get really twisted. In the modern version of Earth X, which DC reimagined as Earth 10 after their various crisis events, we get to see Nazi versions of iconic DC heroes. The most disturbing of these is Overman, essentially a Nazi Superman. Picture this, baby Kal-El's rocket doesn't land in Kansas with the Kents. Instead, it crash lands in Czechoslovakia and is discovered by Nazi forces. Adolf Hitler himself takes this alien child and shapes him into the perfect Aryan weapon. They rename him Overman, and he becomes the ultimate symbol of Nazi ideology. But here's what makes Overman so fascinating and terrifying. He's not just some mindless Nazi drone. He's incredibly powerful, with all of Superman's abilities, but he's been raised to believe in genetic superiority and the Nazi cause. He leads a team called the New Reichsmen, which includes other twisted versions of heroes like Brunhilde, a Nazi Wonder Woman, Leatherwing, Nazi Batman, and Underwater Man, Nazi Aquaman. What's particularly chilling about Overman is that he genuinely believes he's doing the right thing. He thinks he's building a utopia, but it's a utopia built on human suffering and genocide. The character serves as a dark mirror to what Superman could become if raised without the moral guidance of Martha and Jonathan Kent. Crisis on Earth X, the Arrowverse connection. Before Peacemaker brought Earth X back into the spotlight, the concept was actually adapted for television in the Arrowverse's massive crossover event, Crisis on Earth X, back in 2017. This 4-part crossover brought together heroes from Arrow, The Flash, Supergirl, and Legends of Tomorrow to face off against their Earth X counterparts. In this version, we got to see Overgirl, a Nazi version of Supergirl who was married to Dark Arrow, a Nazi version of Oliver Queen. These villains invaded Earth 1 not for conquest, but for a deeply personal reason. Overgirl was dying dying from solar radiation poisoning and needed Kara's heart to survive. The whole invasion was essentially an elaborate organ harvesting operation. The Arrowverse version really emphasized how these characters were complete inversions of our heroes. Where Kara Danvers was raised with love and compassion by the Danvers family, Overgirl was raised by Nazis to be a weapon of oppression. It was a brilliant way to show how nurture versus nature can completely change a person's moral compass. Peacemaker Season 2, The Shocking Revelation. Now let's talk about why we're all here. The massive twist in Peacemaker Season 2 that's got everyone talking. For weeks, fans had been theorizing about the alternate dimension that Chris Smith kept visiting, which he lovingly called the best dimension ever. In this reality, everything seemed perfect for Chris. His father Augie wasn't abusive, his brother Keith was alive, and they had a good relationship, and he even had a romantic connection with Harcourt. But eagle-eyed viewers started noticing some disturbing details. The dimension was completely lacking in diversity. Every single person was white. American flags were strategically positioned to hide the stars, suggesting something had replaced them. Then came episode 6, Ignorance is Chris, and boom, the truth was revealed. This wasn't just some happy alternate reality, it was Earth X, the Nazi dimension. The American flag didn't have stars, it had a swastika. When Adebayo went for a walk in this perfect neighborhood, she was immediately spotted by Keith, who shouted, "One got out!" and organized a mob to hunt her down. James Gunn, the creator of Peacemaker, confirmed that this is indeed Earth X, though the characters in universe don't call it that. He drew inspiration not from the comics, but from Philip K. Dick's novel The Man in the High Castle, which explores a similar alternate history where the Nazis won World War II. The horror beneath the surface, the shocking reality check. What makes Peacemaker's take on Earth X so effective is how it initially appears perfect. Chris gets everything he ever wanted: a loving father, a living brother, respect, and romance. But it's all built on a foundation of genocide and oppression. The show reveals that in this dimension, Argus is run by Nazis. The White Dragon and his sons are celebrated heroes because their racist beliefs align with the world's values, and people of color have been systematically eliminated or imprisoned. It's the ultimate monkey's paw scenario. Chris gets his heart's desire, but at the cost of everything he should morally stand for. This creates an incredible character dilemma for Chris. He's faced with a choice. He can have the family and love he's always wanted, but only if he's willing to accept that it exists in a world built on hatred and genocide. It's going to be fascinating to see how this internal conflict plays out in the remaining episodes. What are the deeper themes and real-world parallels? What I find particularly brilliant about Earth X as a concept is how it serves as a warning about the dangers of authoritarianism and the importance of resistance. These stories aren't just dark fantasy, they're cautionary tales about what happens when good people do nothing in the face of evil. The concept has unfortunately remained relevant throughout the decades. Whether it was during the Cold War when it was first created, or today when we're seeing the rise of authoritarianism around the world, Earth X serves as a reminder of how quickly democracy can crumble if we're not vigilant. James Gunn has been careful to emphasize that while the show does touch on real-world politics, his primary focus is on character development and storytelling. The Nazi elements aren't there for shock value, they're there to challenge the characters and force them to confront their deepest moral beliefs. The future of Earth X in the DCU. With James Gunn now taking the helm of DC Studios, it's interesting to see him incorporating Earth X into the broader DC narrative through Peacemaker. This could potentially set up future storylines involving the multiverse, especially as DC prepares to tell bigger, more interconnected stories. We know that Rick Flag Sr. has made a deal with Lex Luthor to help track down Peacemaker across dimensions. This suggests that the multiverse is about to become a much bigger part of the DCU, and Earth X could play a significant role in future projects. The show has also hinted that not everyone on Earth X is a Nazi. The situation is more complex than it initially appears. This leaves room for future stories about resistance movements, redemption arcs, and the possibility of liberating this dimension from Nazi rule. Why Earth X matters. Look, I know some of you might be wondering why we need stories about Nazi worlds in our superhero entertainment, but here's the thing. These stories serve an important purpose. They show us about the absolute worst-case scenario for humanity, and remind us why we need to fight for justice, equality, and freedom. Superman was created by two Jewish immigrants, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, during the rise of fascism in Europe. The character was literally designed to fight against the kind of oppression that the Nazis represented. So when we see perverted versions like Overman, it's not celebrating fascism. It's showing us exactly what Superman was created to oppose. Similarly, Uncle Sam and the Freedom Fighters represent the enduring spirit of resistance. They show us that even in the darkest timeline, there are still people willing to fight for what's right, even when the odds are impossible. Marvelous verdict, a potential to unlock a whole different side of DC. So there you have it, the complete guide to Earth X, DC's darkest dimension. From its origins in 1973 to its shocking appearance in Peacemaker Season 2, this alternate reality continues to serve as one of comics' most effective cautionary tales. I think that the narrative around this is so intriguing that it has the potential to create some very interesting stories going ahead. The fact that James Gunn chose to incorporate this concept into Peacemaker shows just how relevant these themes remain today. By forcing Chris Smith to confront the reality of his perfect world, the show is asking all of us to examine our own values and consider what we're willing to sacrifice for our personal happiness. What did you think of the Earth X twist in Peacemaker? Are you excited to see how this storyline develops? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to subscribe for more DC content. Until next time, stay vigilant, and remember, in any dimension, it's our responsibility to stand up against tyranny.